so many historic homes here in the UK, and although the history of them tends to be quite muddled and quite dark if you start looking into it, just like some colonial homes in North America have muddled histories, I cannot deny to you that visiting historic homes or experiencing historic homes is going to be a part of your true Anglophile experience. So let's quickly talk about what the difference is between an estate, a manor house, a country home. An estate will essentially refer to a plot of land that has multiple buildings on it and gardens and grounds. Now, an estate can be any size, but it's referring to the fact that there's multiple buildings on it. And then a country house will typically be on an estate. A country house is basically a modern term for a manor house. And a manor house is typically linked to a lord and a lady. Now, I think, especially for us North Americans that have fallen in love with Downton Abbey or any other period drama, we have started to become a little bit more familiar with these country homes and estates, and we often sit and think this is what the UK is like. And it's kind of true and kind of not. Of course, you are going to see these homes, but a lot of these homes have either been bought by the National Trust or they're being ran privately, and the people that are living in these homes, you can visit them and you can visit the grounds. Some will allow you to visit parts of the house on the inside, some won't, but you can visit these homes or the grounds in some capacity or another. Now, if you've been loving the Gilded Age or learning about old money, like I talk about on my other channel, a lot of these homes are not a lot of these homes are very costly to run, which is why in modern times, a lot of these families have made a business out of allowing the public to come visit these homes. However, if we go back to the 18 and 1900s, a lot of these homes were saved by new money families in America coming over and bringing their wealth back to the UK and marrying someone with a title. And then the dowry from these dollar brides is what they were called. They were saving these estates and these country homes. And so that's where when you watch shows like Downton Abbey, you'll often see there's an American wife somewhere along the way, and that is what they're essentially referring to. Now, most of these manor or country houses were built in the 17th and 18th century, and often entire villages that surrounded these estates would be hired on to help support it. So think the maids, the chefs, everything like that. They were often from the villages around it. Again, think Downton Abbey. And how the people of these houses would afford these members of staff is because they owned the land, they would charge rent from their tenants, and then when they got that rent, that was allowing them to pay their staff and live the lifestyle that they were living. So it's almost like one couldn't really live without the other. Now, when the wars came along, many of these houses got turned into hospitals, and then when the owners would get the houses back, they were left in such disrepair that often people would just abandon their houses, or they would even bulldoze them down. And it became even worse yet when there was a certain tax that was introduced, and I think it also had to do with how many windows were in a house, and these people couldn't afford to rebuild their homes and then also pay the taxes on them. So that's when they would start literally destroying these homes, and I think there was more than 1,000 homes that were destroyed during this time period. And that's why here in the UK they'll have listed homes, a grade 1 listed home or a grade 2 listed home. So now that I've cleared up a couple of the tidbits that you might want to know when visiting an estate or a manor house or gardens, I thought it would be really lovely to take you along to my recent trip to Iford Manor. Now, you're not allowed to go inside of this property, but if you want to see inside, I would definitely head over to American Viscountess where she takes you all inside, but let me show you the gardens. The peaceful Grade 1 registered garden is unlike any other with its romantic design and architecture. Combining formality with nature and magnificent rural views across an unspoilt valley, whilst beautifully framed architectural gems and antiquities punctuate your visit throughout. Set on the last hill of the Cotswolds within the area of outstanding natural beauty, Iford Manor hopes that everyone who visits leave feeling relaxed and inspired. From its origins in the wool industry, through Georgian gentrification, then Harold Peato's Edwardian structures, and right up to the present period,
The passion of Iford's inhabitants and its history are inextricably bound up in the beautiful garden's unique design. Today, Iford's story continues to be written in this secluded corner of Old England with a new generation of owners. The gardens will be expanded yet further over the coming years, whilst refreshing the planting and preserving the heritage within the main garden itself. There will therefore be something new to discover on every visit. The structural design seen today was largely created by Harold Peto, who lived at Iford from 1899 to 1933. A man of exquisite taste, with a talent for working in partnership with Sir Ernest George, Harold Peto discovered a real passion for plants when undertaking work at Gravite Manor, then the home to the father of gardening, William Robinson. Learning much about gardening recently from Robinson, Peto subsequently traveled the world, including Japan, Canada, America, Egypt, and across Europe, learning about garden design and bringing back plants from all over the world. His skill for garden design, planting, and architecture meant that he was in demand, especially on the Cap Ferret in France, where many of the world's most expensive houses are today. Peto was the architect for several of those villas and gardens, to the extent that the Cap Ferret was nicknamed Peto Point in Edwardian times. Working for royalty, aristocracy, and tycoons, his main patrons were then the Countess of Warwick and Isabella Stewart Gardner. Influenced mainly by his love of Roman, Italian, and Japanese design, he was a promoter of the Renaissance period and had a strong influence on the arts and crafts period. Striking balance between formal and informal gardening, between soft planting and hard structure, Harold Peto's work was appreciated in writings by Gertrude Jekyll and William Robinson. During the past 55 years, today's owners, the Cartwright-Hignett family, have lovingly restored the garden, once thought lost after World War II, and continued to develop it, saving the buildings therein.
Hello my friends, we are at Iford Manor today. I saw Iford Manor in a few pictures on Instagram from some of the people that I follow that live in the area, and then I saw a episode on American Viscountess where she came here, and I just had to ask my friend Lorena, who's behind that camera, to check it out with me. It is stunning. The weather is beautiful for England, so let's show you around.
Finishing the Oriental Garden area designed by John Hignett and redesigning areas of the garden as they age, 100 years after Peto's original plantings. As you walk around the gardens, you really can see the influence that Harold Peto had on the different segments of the garden. Where we are going through right now, you can definitely see the Japanese influence, and there's even a section of this garden where there is a massive Buddha head. Now, as someone who is absolutely obsessed with Italy, I have to say the parts of this garden that were my favorite were the ones that had that heavier Italian influence. It was such a shame that the wisteria wasn't in full bloom. However, there were a few kind of dotted around the property that you could take in the smell and take in the beauty, but I definitely want to return in July when they said we should anticipate the wisteria to be in full bloom. Basically, there was just a late frost, and then so the spring blooms did not bloom, essentially. Now, after Lorena and I finished walking around the grounds, we did go for lunch at the restaurant here at Iford Manor, and it was stunning. I did document all of that over on our Patreon if you want to take a look and see what we had.
Anyways, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know, are you an Anglophile? Have you made a trip over to the UK? Have you visited any estates or manor houses? I would love to know your favorite ones in the comment section.